Hello and welcome back, or welcome to the Water Ski Podcast. This is Matteo, your host, and the goal of this podcast is to promote water skiing. High level, amateur, recreational, fan, highly involved, no matter what your role is in the sport, even if you just enjoy watching it, this is your podcast. And I hope you will enjoy this episode, which is part 2 of my interview with Matt Rini. So in the first part, we went full traditional water ski podcast mode, and we went through the journey of Matt into water skiing and his transition to coaching. Now, in the second episode, I really just wanted to ask a lot of questions to Matt about coaching. One, because I think it's really useful. You know, we all try to improve so that, you know, could be seen as self-coaching. But also we try to help our bodies improve. So you don't even have to you don't have to be a coach to appreciate the crazy good amount of information that Matt shares in this episode. Now, selfishly, I am a coach too, and so I really wanted to pick his brain on a number of things, and boy, did he deliver. I re-listened to this interview like I do with all my interviews during editing, and I couldn't really find a nugget that was better than another one. So that's why this episode didn't really have the usual 1-minute intro from the guest. It's just so good, like other episodes I've done with Trent and Jay, where we really get into coaching talk. Marcus, it's really fun to just listen to the process that someone goes through in order to try to help another skier improve. So I'm really happy that Matt decided to spend a lot of time with me talking about coaching. I have a couple of announcements to make before we jump into the interview. The first one is that my friends Chris Rossi and Trent Finlinson are back at it with the Spray Makers podcast. Season 3, episode 1 just dropped, so go and check it out on Spotify, Apple, whatever you listen to your podcast. I really love what they're doing, dissecting a lot of water skiing and slalom skiing specifically, but you will find a lot of things in their episodes, even from past seasons, that will help you a lot into your skiing. Even if you're a trick skier, jump skier, if you truly listen to some of the advice and process that they explain, I think they will help you for your skiing too. So go check it out, the Spray Makers podcast on your favorite platform. The second announcement is that in less than 2 weeks, on May 1st, the Water Ski Pro Tour is back, with the first stop in the United States at the Swiss Water Ski Resort. It will be a 1-day pro-only tournament, full of action. So you can go to waterskiprotour.com, where you will find the link of the webcast, and you can see the leaderboard from last year, and check out the leaderboard after that event is over, and follow through the season as the skiers, the pro skiers, travel the world to gather those points for the tour championship. So those are the 2 little announcements. Obviously, this episode, like many others before this one, have been kindly brought to you by the Flowpoint Method. The Flowpoint Method is the online water ski training program developed by Jenny Labaugh and Marcus Brown, one of the guests of this show. And what these guys do is just they leverage on a lot of experience and competency too, to give you a truly holistic approach to water skiing. They cover technique, they cover fitness, nutrition, and mindset. Something that really our sport was missing before they decided to create this program. And you will hear in my interview with Matt, and if you listen to other coaching interviews, how it's not just about where your hips are. It's a whole range of things that need to be in place and need to be improved upon for you to become the best skier that you can. And if you see the the Flow Point method, they have a lot of members that are doing exactly that, and a few ambassadors, professional water skiers, world champions, masters champions, that really entrust Jenny and Marcus for their improvement. So go and check it out. You can become a member or take advantage of the free trial by going to the waterskipodcast.com/flowpointmethod, one word. So thewaterskipodcast.com/flowpointmethod, or you can click in the link in the show notes of this episode. So yeah, that's about that. I really hope, but I also know that you will enjoy this coaching talk with Matt. I want to thank him once again for taking the time to do this. And until then, I will see you next week for the next episode. Enjoy. All right, Matt, after a little break, we're here for part 2. And what I'm really interested in is doing some coach talk. I've had a few coaches here, and I just simply enjoy this part. Because I think the audience will understand pretty easily that helping someone with their skiing is not easy. And you don't have to be a ski school coach or a ski school owner to understand this. You may just ride in the boat to help your buddy, and you quickly realize that this thing is pretty complex, right? So I guess the first question I have for you is, I'm coming to ski at your ski school. You don't know me, right? You've never met me. You've never seen me ski. We go for a slalom ride. What are some of the things you immediately try to look for or notice?
So the first thing I'm going to notice is where you park your car, because it's going to give me an indication of, I'm being serious now.
Yeah.
Car parking at a ski school. Now I'm not, it's not a spoiler. You can't, like, if you're listening and you come to my ski school next week, who's ever listening, you can't. But no, parking determines a little bit the personality. And then when they get out of their car, what they do when they get out of the car and how they walk, I kind of watch them walk, and I watch whether they go sheepishly to the picnic table or whether they come down to the dock to see me. Just, it gives me a little bit of insight into their, like, personality, like, just, you know, whether they're nervous, not nervous, shy, not shy. I can see all that while I'm doing, you know, the turn at the end of the lake type of deal.
Yeah.
And, you know, if my daughter, who's normally at the ski school, does what she always does, she'll get up and welcome them and make them feel welcome. So hopefully, you know, that's very important to me. And then, you know, I watch to see how they walk, what their posture is, if they have any limps, anything, you know. And actually, I don't really ask them anything about their skiing. A lot of people tell me what their issues are. I don't really watch because I play this game, especially if it's a tournament skier. Yep. That I don't know anything about. I play this game where I watch their first pass and then I guess what their hardest pass is, and then I can usually tell, depending on right foot forward or left foot forward, you know, where the issue is going to be. So it's like an energy thing. I can watch their energy, pass or two. I let them, if they're nervous, I might let them do 2 or 3 passes. And then I'm like, so let me guess, you run 32 off all the time and you get stuck at 2 ball at 35 or something like that. That's just an example. Right. So I try to guess because, you know, it's all energy to me. It's all about, like, you know, I can tell somebody who can run 39 off when they go off the dock at 32, you know, what it looks like. I can. Yeah. And you can. So, and really, you know, I can explain why I look for what I look, but I basically kind of really only watch them go through the wakes at the beginning, because how you go through the wakes is going to determine, you know, efficiency, energy, speed, lean angle, leverage, all of those things. So I can see, I could almost just look in my mirror and tell you what's going to happen out at the side. Like, at least eventually, unless there's something really weird going on, or somebody's switch gripped, or somebody's, like, boots are weird, or, you know, I mean, you know what you're going to see. And so I'm probably the only guy left being a dinosaur, as you know, that has a flat mirror still. Like I have a big 200 mirror that's flat because those bent mirrors, it skews the speed back and forth. So you can't really tell the actual speed somebody's going through the wakes because when the mirror's bent, it actually looks slower. So Nautique always gives me boats with no mirrors so I can put my mirror on it. And I've had I've had the same mirror for a long time. And so I guess the real question is, why do I look for that? Okay. So, and you heard me earlier talk about peeling the onion. So especially when it comes to slalom, there's really two things that are kind of overlooked and probably the two most important things to have factored into your head when you're slalom skiing, coaching a slalom skier, understanding. One is the ski, and two is what the boat demands. There's those two things we get stuck in this world of like technique and do this and do that, but it's like there's some pretty strict like physical laws that the ski demands, and there's some pretty strict physical demands that the boat, like, you have to do. Now, if we go back to like Gen 4 engines, not Gen 5 engines, which is what we have now, that rhythm that the boat demands is a lot more lenient and a lot more lenient to, you know, a Chris Parrish versus a Dane Meckler. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but now with these Gen 5 engines, it's like you either kind of conform or you're playing defense the whole time. Yep. So it's like we have to set, and bigger than that is the ski, but the boat is like, for good slalom skiers now, the boat's like the big part of it. Like, and understanding how the ski reacts in the water is the big part of it. So like, for example, if you took the last 20 skis that were, I mean, I'm not talking about radar, I'm just talking about slalom skis in general.
Yeah.
And, you know, for the last, let's say 10 years of people that run 39 off, and you just like took an overlay of it, like the side cut of it, and you just stacked all 10 or 20 skis on top of each other. I'm not talking about bevels, rocker, flex, any of that stuff. Just like the overlay. There's a wide point of the ski. So there's a point where just in front of your toes, most ski companies are somewhere between 41 and 43 inches. I learned all this from Andy Mapple years ago. Yep. Andy explained all this to me. He's like, you can move that wide point forward and the ski goes out really good, but it won't turn. You can move it back. It turns really good, but you can't get outside the ball. So he's like, we're working with a really small, you know. So like, yep. For me, that's like the biggest thing that like, if you disregard those two things and you just try to do whatever you think Nate Smith does or Freddie Winter does, you are going to be in a heap of trouble. Like, you're not going to end up where they end up, you know? And now whether they know any of this or not, it doesn't really matter. But like, when you know where that wide point is, when the ski doesn't know where you are or what you're doing. When the water breaks ahead of it, it thinks you want to turn. So if you change your edge and the water breaks ahead of that, you're going to probably go inside the ball. Yep. If the water breaks behind it when you're at the apex of the turn, you're probably going to go straight. Like, it's not probably you're going to have to do something to make it. So like, you know, everything that I build off of comes from those two parameters. Like, what does the boat demand? What does the ski demand? And then we're going to start in the middle of the wakes and we're just going to build everything out from there. Because if the balance point isn't right when you change the direction, you know, you're going to be in defense mode the whole time. So it's like now, if you go back 20 years ago in golf, they had an idea what made the golf ball curve, hit a fade, hit a draw. Now we have launch monitors that measure everything perfectly. So there's statistical data that tells you that. We unfortunately don't have that in water skiing, but there's some pretty strict laws that you have to abide by. You can't ignore those laws that the ski demands, and you can't forget that we're standing on an unstable surface while we do it. So it's like, it doesn't feel like water to you anymore, but it's definitely an unstable surface. It's like running across a pool cover really fast. I mean, yeah, you can get across it the faster you go, but it's still not like running on the ground. So,
Right.
You know, that's the first thing I'm going to look for. Energy and what you look like when you go through the weights, because that's going to paint the picture of your limits of where you're going to get to, and it's going to paint the picture of more than likely what the problems are going to be at the turn.
That's it's a very interesting approach. So you take both demands and the way in which a slalom ski works, and you keep those two in mind as you watch the skier cross the wakes, and then you go from there essentially.
Well, I don't anymore. It's instinctual to me, but
yeah, of course.
You know,
yeah.
Of course, everybody listening is like, well, why does he start at the wakes? Why doesn't he start with the fact that the person has slack and the person, you know, because that's what they came for. It's like, I get slack at ball 1 at 35 off. You need to fix it. And I'm like, yeah, we probably need to fix 28 off. And then, you know,
yeah,
because everybody comes to you with a problem. Like that's what they're at the ski school for. They have a problem. If they didn't have a problem, I mean, Nate doesn't come get coaching. You know, like he's got it figured out, you know, and Freddie doesn't go get coaching very often, I'm sure either, because they got it like they're pretty dialed. You know what I mean? But like, you know, Joel, who's trying to run 41 for the first time, he's begging me for information. He's like, okay, tell me everything. Last year was like, just tell me what to do. This year, it's like, I want to know everything you know. And I'm like, okay, but you know, and so it's having those two like you just can't ignore them, you know, like somebody goes, oh, well, ski with your shoulders open to the boat. Well, okay, instantly it's probably going to feel better, but the ramifications of what it does, because your body's not touching the water, your ski's touching the water. So what does that do to my ski that's going to affect me at 65 miles an hour when I flip it on its other edge? I mean, that's the reality of it. And that's what, you know, I have a very easy, simple system now, but for the longest time, I had to peel that onion until I got to the center of it, which is like how the ski works. And then, like I said, with these new boats and these engines that can actually, when you see Vince's strain gauge and you hook into a 800-pound pull, it can actually keep up with you now. Whereas if you go back 5 or 6, 7 years, it couldn't keep up with you. So like, you know, and he doesn't mind me saying his name, but I've had this conversation with Chris Parrish. I'm like, dude, you're not going to feel the glory days. The glory days, it's the rhythm's different now, you know? And it struck me the other day, like you just see generational, right? So you see like Chris Parrish started on perfect pass, finished, you know, on 0 off. Nate started on 0 off, finished on Gen 5, and now you take a kid like Charlie Ross, who's never probably run 28 off behind a Gen 4 engine. He cut his teeth on a Gen 5. So that rhythm and that demand of that boat is just ingrained to him. Whereas like somebody who may have had some glory years, you know, in a time when the parameters were different, it's you know, it's like you have
adapt.
to just...
You adapt or you stay behind.
Right. But you just have to understand it. And so, you know, I've had the luxury of helping to design skis. I mean, I'm not the guy that sits at the computer. That's Rossi. But, you know, understanding what does what has been a huge. And Andy and Herb gave me so much information about stuff that, you know, really shaped the way that I evolved my process of creating a good slalom skier. Or it doesn't even have to, you know, somebody running the slalom course. I mean, the principles are effectively the same from, you know, 15 off to 39 off. Yes, the angles and the power and the speed and everything is completely different, but it's like the ski is what it is, you know, it's not anything different. Now, obviously, you know, a D3 bevel and an HO bevel and a radar bevel are completely different, and everything's different, and the materials are different, and the layups are different, and yada, 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 yada. But from a 30,000 foot view, slalom skis are all kind of a lot alike, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Which is why I can ride your ski and you can ride my ski, and we're going to be just fine, you know?
Yeah. Nowadays, yes. And I think it's certainly the evolution of how the process of making skis happened, right? Because I remember talking to Bob a couple of years ago, and he said, yeah, now it's like that, but you go back 20 years and no, you wouldn't be able to ski on all the skis that there were, you know?
Right. Because
So
it's
there's also
it's
that.
yeah, and it was trial and error. And it's like, but you know, like before Herb died, like, man, you'd come up with some wild idea and you call him, oh, I tried that. This is what it's going to do. I tried that. This is what it's going to do. Well, if you want this, you need that. Or Andy
Yeah.
used to be the same. You know, Andy,
Yeah.
I used to call Andy all the time. Hey, I want my ski to do this. You know, and he'd say, well, it needs to have this and this, or this needs to be moved, or this needs to be changed. And I'm not talking about fin. I'm talking about like, you know,
Yeah,
big
design.
picture. Yeah,
Design.
ski
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
that's bigger than the fin and where the boots go. And because those are all just like minor little, you know,
Yeah.
minor little deals that change the rate in which the ski gets engaged, or the abruptness, or the loose or tight, or however you want to describe it. But
Yeah.
it's not, you know, like I said, if you just took, you know, a trace mark of the last any you know, of however many skis, the last 20 skis that have run 39 off, they're all overlay them, they're going to look a lot alike, a lot, you know.
At least in terms of the big picture that you try to have in front of you, or at least that guides your coaching, right? So
Yeah.
regardless of the bevel, of the rocker,
Right.
of the blah, 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 the ski acts in a slalom ski acts in a certain way.
Absolutely.
And you're going to look at that and know what the boat demands in order to see the skier in front of you and decide what to say.
Right.
So we're at that first set. The skier has done 2 or 3 passes. Are you the type of coach that says something the first set, or still very much asks questions, still trying to figure out the person?
It depends on the level of the skier. You know, there's obviously low-hanging fruit, the lower level of skier. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if T-Gas comes to ski with me, I'm asking T-Gas questions. I'm not like digging in there and cutting open but whatever. But if I see, you know, somebody going through the wakes who's trying to run 22 off and getting bounced way up in the air, I'm going to explain to them right away what's causing the bounce. Because that's, you know, like the low-hanging fruit, I'll comment on it. Usually, if it's the first time I've ever watched you, probably I'll let you do 2 passes. Unless something really wacky happens, I might let you do 3 and then I'll say something. Because it's usually, you know, again, I'm going back to like, if we go back to that focus and we say, okay, like each part of the slalom course, where do we want the water break on the ski? So let's say we analyzed a 39 off, and all we did was analyze from a helicopter, where did you change your edge and how fast you were going when you changed your edge. Those are the 2 things I need to know, right? Mm-hmm. And then I can say, okay, where do I want the water break to be on my ski at that point? And from there, I can then build the person on top of the ski to give me that. So there's certain things I do with my posture, my body, or my shoulders, or my arms, or whatever, that are going to help me maximize hitting that spot. Because I know if I'm behind it, I'm not going to have the drive off the wake. If I'm ahead of it, I'm going to start to come in too soon. So then what's going to happen? The person's going to pull long to make sure they get outside the ball. Then a whole whack of more problems come up when you're going 65, 70 miles an hour, you know, off the second wake. Now, you know, that's the way when I see the picture in my mirror, the blueprint that I want to see, that's after watching like, you know, a lot of years of slalom skiers. Like I don't need to freeze frame your video. I kind of know where you're going to change your edge at 39, and based on your power and how your stance is, I kind of know how long you're going to pull, you know? So, but you know, the low hanging fruit, I nip it in the bud right away because I want the person's experience to get better instantly. You know, instantly.
Going back to your mic experiences.
Instantly, yeah. I mean, the better I can relieve their pain and not pain, but relieve their struggle, the quicker, the better, you know? Whereas like T-Gas is coming to me, telling me, sucking up the rope out of 2-ball at 41. I mean, dude, I'm going to watch and ask and watch and ask and watch and ask. And like, you know, it's a little bit.
Maybe say the thing if needed.
yeah, just say, what's your gait been like, or what's this been like? Or, I mean, you guys know what you're doing. It's not like, when I coach a pro, it's more about getting you guys to understand what's causing what's happening, and then letting you like self-organize, you guys are good at self-organizing. Like I just, and I do that a lot with kids that, you get a kid in the water that's got ADHD, and I tell them, like, when you go through the wakes, feel like you're picking up a really heavy weight, like how you would hold your body, and turn as close to the ball as you possibly can. Like, show me those two things, right? And they self-organize. They lean more to get earlier, to turn earlier. It all kind of happens with kids and with pros. It's the people in between, especially the ones that are like pretty good and like have really beat their head against the wall to get better, and they can't get better, so then they come to me. Because then it's like a whole lot of deprogramming I have to do to get back to where we can then take a step forward, which nobody likes that. It's...
No.
It's a tough sell.
I think it's a tough sell, but it's also where, the most frustrating work slash the most rewarding work can occur, right?
Yeah.
So if you really manage to get that skier that has been stuck at 2 at 35 for the longest time because of a deep fundamental flaw, and through a couple of weeks of ski school, you at least put them in a way to where they can go home and rep, and if they do that, the flaw should be gone.
Right.
I mean, I find it profoundly rewarding.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's super cool.
But here's the deal, and I learned this from my good friend Brent Larson, who's also like an amazing coach. Like before COVID, I used to fly him down once a year to coach Paige and Whitney tricking. Like he's a wonderful human, and he told me, look, every human has what's called the SARA response, SARA, shock, anger, resistance, acceptance. So he said, if I tell you you're doing something wrong, first you're going to be shocked, then you're going to be mad at me, and then you're going to tell me, no, you're wrong. I can do what you're asking me my way. And then finally they're going to get to acceptance. And so he taught me that about 10 years ago. And it's really helped my coaching, because now I can see what stage the person's at. Some people show up to my doc in acceptance, like, dude, whatever you tell me, I'm going to do it. And some people get stuck in resistance and have been coming to me for 3-4 years. So it's like they not argue, but they just don't surrender the fact that, like, we got to move back to move forward. So it's like, once you know that as a coach, you stop getting frustrated, because when somebody's in resistance and you're trying to really twist the gears to them, it's like, it's like trying to push a truck uphill. This is not going to happen, So until they get sick of running to a 35 off and they're like, okay, I'll do whatever it takes, just tell me, then that's when we move forward. So
So I wonder, because we're going into the psychology of coaching, so you obviously raised my antennas in a good way. You get the skier who's been coming for a little bit and they are resistant to change. Do you have strategies, coaching strategies that you found that might help them get them to acceptance?
Yes, absolutely. Is what I will do is I will, for instance, like if the guys, okay, let's say we start in the middle of the wakes with this guy who's running 2 at 35 off. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've done everything I can do to get his alignment where it needs to be, because there's I have kind of a specific alignment that I want to see when somebody slaloms, that tells me that they're going to be in a spot where they can not only have the maximum amount of drive behind the boat, like the maximum amount of power, but it's not uncontrollable for them to release their feet and still carry out. So let's say we get the person to that point and, we go to 35, because you got to remember, the other part of it is explaining to people, because sometimes the resistance is fear, right? Because they're scared. They go to 35 off and all of a sudden, they're going faster, but they're trying to make it feel like they're going 32 off because, they read on the internet that you want to be light on the line and you want to not spike the blah, blah, all this stuff I hear. And it's like, okay, so I will do this with them. I'll say, first of all, if I suspect that is actually the case, because it happens at 38 and 39, a lot of times when young girls run 35 for the first time, dude, 38's like a whole different ball game of commitment.
Scary.
Yeah. So I'll tell them, I'll say, look, do you want to shorten it? Yes. Okay. So by shortening it, you're telling me that you're accepting the fact that you have to go harder and you will go faster. Yes. And so then what I'll do is I'll say, okay, instead of going shorter, we're going to go 35 again, but I want you to lean and generate the speed that you think you're going to have at 38. So that it's that baby step of like, okay, let's get over this little bit of a hump that I'm afraid to go fast. And so I'll have them, maybe even for a day or two, ski their 32 off like they're running 35, their 35 off like they're running 38. Like, show me the intensity that you expect. Because if you just go to 35 or 38 for a girl, let's say, and you think you're going to go through the gates and make it feel the same as it does at 35, you're not going to get around one ball, or you're not going to get a turn, So let's not set ourselves up for failure. Let's set ourselves up for success by getting acclimatized and accustomed to what this next level is going to bring. And 9 times out of 10, people get slack and then they go easier. And then it's worse. And it's like they get in this real conundrum at the gate about, and it's like, I tell them, like, if you're going to lean, X, Y, Z from 2 to 3, you got to lean that hard through the gate. Like, the buoy's coming quicker at the gate. So it's like, let's do some gates on the pass before, and like, you just got to like get them comfortable with making that step and being committed. And it's really like, it's a big thing for people. Like, I'm going through it with my wife right now about 41 because of what happened at the Worlds. It's like,
yeah, wow,
dude,
yeah.
She runs 39 like super easy again, but like, dude,
41, yeah. So you get into the mental side, and then obviously incremental small steps towards the right direction.
Yeah, it's like usually resistance. I found that usually resistance can be replaced for self-doubt. It's like they're not sure that they can do what you're asking. So they kind of fight you a little bit. And it's like, you got to go in the back door on the pass before and like get them comfortable and like, dude, yeah, that's the speed you're going to have. Now, feel comfortable. Because of course, when you lean more and you take more speed, you just feel like, you feel like the pass is way easier, So they're, now 35 is not like, or 32 or 35, whichever we're doing, is not on the edge anymore. It's like crazy early, super strong, tight line, backside in the ball. And it's like, okay, what are we doing? We're wasting our time here now. Let's get to the next one. It's like, it's kind of, that
bringing them to that point that they're ready for, but they might not know that they're ready for.
Yeah, I do it with Joel at 39. I'm like, dude, run this 39 like it's 41. Like, literally, I want to see a difference behind the boat than the last one you ran. I mean it, and it's not because Joel's afraid. It's because it's like committing to that next pass, which is like, seems so much faster when you commit. I mean, shoot, man, when you go from 39 to 41, it feels like you're going a million miles an hour. But it's like, run your 39s.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy how, like and you can look at the stats of how many people run 38 in the world or 39 or 41, and it's exponential. It's not that you just change 50 centimeters and it's the same kind. No, it becomes exponentially harder and faster and more commitment. And, everything has to be dialed in, like mentally, physically, equipment, boats, course has to be precise. Like, I mean, it just gets to another level pretty quickly.
Yeah. And then with short rope, that's where having a really solid understanding of what the boat's doing is everything. Because like at 41, if you travel that downswing too quick, dude, you got nothing. You're going 70 miles an hour before you even, or 75 miles an hour before you even get into the center line. What makes you think you're not going to pull up on the throttle? You're going to for sure. I mean, we all have that built-in speedometer, and like, it's like understanding how to use the downswing, positioning the body to use the downswing, and saving the speed for later, So that's, again, we go back to like making sure the fundamentals behind the boat are right so that we have the water break where we want on the ski. And then like, you got to understand what the boat can do. So like, a boat, the new engines of all the boats are like, if you were on a swinging back and forth, Okay? I mean, you can
Yep.
visualize and feel. At the top, you float. At the bottom's where the acceleration is. Well, if you're not careful, at short rope, it's like someone standing on a ladder and pushing you down every time.
Right.
So you get that like forced downswing, and it's like it's the speedometer kicks in, and you're like, well, you know that if you commit to it, you're gonna have slack anyway, or you're not even gonna come close to turning. So then you maneuver and do. It's like, so again, it's understanding how to generate the speed. It's like somebody who's ready to run 41 off, somebody who's getting 3 and 4 a lot. What does their 39 look like? Well, it looks like they're 38 because they've been probably doing it for 5 or 6 years. And so, but do they ever go run 39 and try to get the speed that they're going to have at 41 and get their body used to it? No, they want to run it as easy as possible, which I get. But it's like, you have to use that 39 or 38 or 35 or whatever pass it is to acclimatize your body for what's coming next. Yeah, because it ain't going to be, it's not going to feel the same. Like there's no 2 passes that you run, not even if you took Will Asher and put him at 32 off, then 35, which basically look the same. There's no way if you had a speedometer on his ski that it's not the same speed. He's going faster every time. So it's like, don't go to the next pass and try to make it feel like the one that you're comfy and cozy at, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So
it doesn't work. Look, I want to go back to the idea of, and this is personally something I'm facing as a very young coach, right? So as a profession, I've been doing it for 2 or 3 years, like leisure-wise for a long time, but as an everyday thing, it hasn't been a long time. And also from what I know from psychology, obviously the idea of small, incremental, realistic but challenging steps and goals lead to good motivation, good improvement. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, you have to have an idea as a coach of what the realistic but hard goals are. Mm-hmm. And I started to find that sometimes I find myself limiting my athlete. You see what I mean? Like, so I go, okay, but within the next 2 months with this skier, I can expect them to be here in slalom, here in tricks, here in jump, and they're there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I wonder is, I'm sure you have you encountered athletes that blow you away in that regard, and how do you deal with that? You see what I mean?
Absolutely. And honestly, so I don't cut corners with people. Obviously when somebody's coming, they're there for 3 days, they might be a 3 or 4 38 off skier. I don't really have the time to break them down completely and fix the issue, but I will make them aware of it and then trust that they're going to go home and work on it. And I'll give them a solid plan on this is what you need to get to the next level. Okay.
Yeah.
For example, with my own daughter, when Paige was young, okay?
Yep.
You had Anna, Brooke, Neely, all these kids skiing in tournaments. My daughter didn't slalom in any tournaments because I kept her at the exact same rope length and same speed over and over and over and over until I built perfect water ski instincts into her. So in other words, when we're in trouble in a tournament, she's probably not going to look crappy behind the boat when she's pulling. You know what I mean? Okay. It's like her instinct. Now, if you give me a kid that can run 32 off and he's got his butt hanging out and his shoulders are all kinked over and whatever, and I spend 2 weeks fixing it, and then we go to a tournament and he gets to 32 off, he's going to drop his butt to run it because there's more ticks on the feather, more feathers in the cap with the butt down than there is with the butt up. So if you are building solid foundations, you can't put a limit on the improvement, because it's basically based on how quickly somebody improves. Now, if you have bad basics, okay, you're going to hit plateaus. Like a kid can muscle through 28 and 32, but they can't muscle through 35, right? So you're going to see a plateau, and then it's going to take them 2 years to run 35 off. But what you have to take into account on how quickly somebody improves is purely their athleticism. When you build the building blocks and the fundamental basics are good and the kid is athletic, the sky is really the limit. Because this stuff's not really that hard. Like I always tell kids, if you ever been to Cirque du Soleil and they all say, yeah, I'm like, that stuff's incredible, right? Yeah. So why are you struggling to do a toe wrap in? Because I'm pretty sure I could grab one of those little Asian girls that are spinning those things up on, and I could teach them a toe wrap in a couple of weeks. And they have never even water skied. So like,
Right.
you know, like you're athletic enough to do this, you know, like it's like the athleticism of the human and all of their like athletic experiences are going to aid them. When you put their body in the right position, you're going to see a crazy amount of improvement. And that's really, but if you have a kid that's not very athletic, you have to recognize that. And you still build the base, but you have to understand that the graph's going to be slower. And it's just, it's the reality of sports. You know, it's like, I don't believe in talent. I think that's a mythical term that people think God sprinkles talent dust on some and others. It's like if you could trace, you know, Joel gets labeled the most talented kid on the planet, but if you could trace all of his athletic experiences from the day he was born, dude, there's a roadmap to where he is now. It's not like he's gifted at water skiing and he's not a good surfer, not good at golf, not good at anything he puts his hands on. It's because of his athletic ceiling is really high. Whereas you might take a kid that he's going to be a grinder, like give him the basics, and he's going to peck away at it because it doesn't come as quick because he hasn't had as many athletic experiences. But, you know, I'll put that kid's math grades against Joel's math grades any day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Joel's not good in school, but he's really good at sports. And it's, you know, and I read books when I was younger, when Paige was first born, about physical literacy. And I did a lot of things with Paige in the beginning to develop that physical literacy, like balance, hand-eye coordination, running, jumping, all those activities, which is why it's super important for kids to do more than just water ski. Like they have to do other sports to develop that athleticism, because you limit your ceiling by specializing too soon. Like if you specialize in any sport too soon, you're going to be really good at it, but your athletic ceiling will be stifled over the long term. And I see it. My son's a competitive golfer, and I see it in golf. Like you have these kids that have been in golf tournaments since they were 2. They're like little robots. They go hit the ball, they score low. I mean, it's really good. But like you can see the dynamic athleticism in my son. He's only been golfing 3.5 years, but you know his athletic, you know, and like when you get to pro golf, it's not all about just hit your ball straight and go get it. It's like, dude, you got to be an athlete. Like those guys are, you know, that's why you look at the golf rankings and it's like, oh, he used to be a basketball player in high school. He used to do this. He used to do that. Now, of course, there's an exception, Tiger Woods. I know everybody who's listening, you know, but you know.
No, but the trend is that, and I mean, we've seen it. There's good research on that too. Like, it's not only the athletic literacy, but it's also like the ability of things like understanding the pressures, you know, like there's also a psychological factor to that, right? Which 100%. Is why a lot of coaches in the NCAA, for instance, tend to prioritize multi-sport athletes in high school, because they even might encourage them to play the other sport in college if they're good enough, right?
Right.
Because they know that the athletic ceiling of their athlete would be so much higher.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So they are willing to trade practice time for that potential, right? And I think
there's
super important.
Like I think as a coach, you need to build the base really strong. Do not cut any corners. If it takes you a year to teach a kid how to go through the wakes, right, it's worth it. A year is such a small time in a child's life, or a kid's life, or a skier's life. If that kid has to stay at 28 off in order, it's way better to build that and then just watch them continue to get better and better and better, you know? And that's why you see like a Charlie Ross come along, or even the Canapa kid. He's quite young. I mean, I don't know all these kids' ages, but that kid's really good, you know? And it's like they have a base, you know, like Drew built the base perfectly, and now it's like the sky's the limit. Yeah, it's like there's not there's not really any more. Like in the old days, it was like, oh, 35 off's a 2-year process before you own it. And it's not like that anymore. It's like, and really with athletic kids, I take as much of the water skiing out of it and just teach them how to be athletic. Like when I coach somebody like, well, Paige, Joel, anybody really, I like teach them how to move their body to accelerate it as if they were running. Not, oh yeah, you got to turn and bend this and tilt this and do. No, it's like, dude, if you were running around the slalom course, how and where would you move your body to get going as fast as you could that way? They're all athletes. They're all athletic, I get so many of these Canadian kids that come that are like good snow skiers, good hockey players, good athletes, and they've just been water skiing dumped on them so much that they're not even athletic anymore. And I'm like, hey, stand like you're athletic, move like you're athletic, don't worry about the ski. It's going to follow you. It's going to do what you want it to do. Move your body like you want to run to the other side. Like, how would you do that? Would you lean back? No. Well, then why are you leaning back through the turn?
Right.
It's simple.
Right.
It's simple stuff that athletic people can self-organize and just, they pick up stuff so much quicker.
Yeah. And speaking of kids, I wanted to ask you this. Like, obviously, we've started to see a younger and younger trend in water skiing, right? It started in tricks, maybe in women's tricks first, then in men's tricks. Now we're starting to see in women and men's slalom. What do you make of that? What do you think has accelerated high performances at a younger age in slalom and tricks?
I mean, it's the internet. Literally.
The internet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 100%. Like I told you, when I was a kid, my dad stood on the lake and videotaped, how the Junior World's tricks so we could see it, watching these people trick. Now, I mean, you talk about the girls, Erica Lang paved the way. Erica Lang showed Neely and Anna how to do it. You know what I mean? And Alexei showed Pato and everybody else how to do it. Here's how you do it. This is the formula. So they go online, they study it. I know Pato spent a ton of time on a trampoline when he was young, but, they all have their own boats, their own lakes, their own coaches. Like Sergio was an amazing tricker, and monkey see, monkey do. It's like
exposure.
It's the access is all there. Like you can slow-mo a video and watch it,
Yeah.
I mean,
My
son is on his phone all the time watching golf videos. All the time. Like, I mean, that's the generation. They learn on YouTube and Instagram and all these things. And, it's good, it's healthy for sport. I don't know if it's so healthy to be glued to that thing, more thing, but I don't ever tell my kid not to watch golf videos. I mean, I want them to,
to study, to see. And I think it's also a little bit of to see what's possible, right? Because if you are, like, say, a junior skier, under 17, and one thing is you have heard of someone, like it was in your day or even when I was a kid, I've heard of that kid in France, man, like he does these crazy scores. Another thing is you see their videos. Another thing is that you see their videos and the videos of everybody else that does that score all the time.
Right.
All of a sudden, you start to believe, okay, that score is feasible. That it can be done.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like breaking through that barrier. Like Erica did it, and then Anna and Neely were like, "Yep, we can trick 10,000. Let's go." So I mean, it's the way it is. And like, so for instance, when I learned to flip, Craig could do one, Jarrett could do one, Sammy Duvall could do one, Ricky McCormick could do one. And Mike had no clue. He didn't know how to do it. He was just like, you throw your ski around this way. And then, okay, we all learned it. We all bashed our ankles and figured it out and learned it. And then, like, for a long time, only Craig could do the reverse. But it wasn't even a trick. So, like, nobody really worked on it. And then Jarrett learned the reverse. And it took me, like, forever to learn the reverse. And then along come this kid named Ryan Green. And he learned everything. One summer in Florida, down at Mike's, he learned all the flips, front flip, mobe, all of that. And we're like, oh, okay, so this stuff is possible. We didn't even know. Like, nobody could do it. I mean, Ryan Green was really the first one that, like, I was in Canada, and then I came down to see Mike in the summer, and Ryan was like busting out all these flips. And I'm like, oh, wow. We thought about doing that, but we weren't sure it was possible, you know?
Right.
But now you look at these kids, right? They can go to any lake and see anybody do it, and have somebody like me tell them, hey, this is how you do it, you know?
Yep.
Whereas when we were learning, it was just trial and error a lot. So
let's go to tricks for a second, since we talked about tricks a little bit. In my view, you know, if you let the kid loose, if you let the especially the young tricker loose, at least I found two families of trickers, right? Like, so the ones that are like more wakeboarder style, I've landed this one once, let's go on to the next. Or the ones that are run. Yeah, I could learn that, but it's not really going to fit my run, so what's the point, right? I don't know if you've noticed those approaches and how you handle them, you know?
Yeah, it's very European to like do your trick run all the time. Like that's even Joel has that. Like Joel still like, he does his Instagram swerving and flipping the rope over his head, and then he does his trick run. Like that's very European to do that. I mean, with trick, it's really important in tricking to write out a plan and goal set, because kids don't really, you get the kids like Paige. I never let Paige know how much tricks were worth growing up, because I didn't want her to think that because a trick was worth more points, it was harder. So I would never tell her the points. I'm just like, this one's just as easy as that one. Like, toe 5 front, toe 5 back. They're basically the same when you start in the front, when you start in the back, or, you know, it's like,
right. Yeah.
I didn't want her to know anything.
Yeah.
Okay. But then once she got a little better, and those kids are like, in tricking, you want like robots, man. You want nobody to give you their opinion about what they want to do. It's like, you just be a robot for a few years and you'll be really good. Like, just do what I tell you. Do it as quick as you can, how I tell you, and just do this many toe sets and this many hand sets, and we're going to work on flips, and we're going to build the run this way. Like, I tell kids, be a good robot. Just do what I tell you. Don't ask questions. Just do it, you know? But then it gets to a point where it's really important to plan with them. Like, okay, we've got this. This is our base. This is what we got, okay? This is how many points you can trick that I would bet $100 on, let's say. Then it's like, okay, to go to the next level, we need to swap this out. We need to learn this, and we need to do that. So then it's like really just times of the year when you focus on, like, you know, if they have in season and tournaments, it depends on the kid, but, you know, even Joel, I got to rein him in. Like, I've been reining him in. He's been just going bonkers lately, doing whatever he wants. And I'm like reining him in. Like, okay, let's just calm down. Let's get back to like a rhythm. We need a rhythm for this trick run. And you haven't done it really since the World. So like, let's just get the rhythm back, and then we'll work on, you know, because Joel, if you just let him go, he'll do his run and then, I'm going to try this crazy trick or whatever, which is fine. But it's like, you know, the Masters qualifiers aren't that far away, and it's like time to rein him in. So, and it's just planning it out and showing the kid, like, you know, here's what we're going to plug and replace. This is like not hard to learn. You got to commit to 5 of these a set or 10 of these a set if it's a flip or whatever it is. And like, just commit to me that we're going to do 10 of these a set. You can go out and do your run, but we got to do at least 10 of these before we go in, you know, and that's really the only way, because it gives them a kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I learned that kind of the hard way with Paige. Like, I didn't tell her anything for the longest time. And then she actually sat with our sports psychologist, who is for our national team. Yep. And then after their meeting, he said, look, you need to lay out a plan for her, because she gets like anxious because she doesn't know what's coming next, you know? And it's like, oh, really? I was doing that because it was intentional. Like, I have the plan in my head. Yeah. And he's like, could you write it down and give it to her? And I'm like, 100%. Yeah.
Bring her into the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that just like, she was about 15 or 16 at the time. And it's like, I learned from her that it's really important. My wife's probably the best planner I've ever met. Like, that girl's got her goals for the season, her tournaments planned, everything written out. So, you know, I'm kind of a part of her plan. I have a plan technically, but otherwise I'm a part of her plan, you know, like
Yep.
she's kind of like Nate and Freddie, you know, like we did a lot of work this last season, because she came off of a couple bad years and then had the baby, and I'm like, hey, let's just break this thing down. So like actually between Lake 38 and whatever the next tournament was, we kind of stripped everything down and ran a whole lot of 35 offs to like fix some stuff that had been kind of leaking and not just not crisp, good skiing that's going to promote, like, you know, and other than that, like she's got a plan. So it's like having that plan is really important. And so
yeah, in tricks, yeah.
I did that with
feel
Joel. I'm like, hey, here's our plan. Here's what I need you to do for me. And of course, you give Joel a plan and he does it the first try. But it's like, okay,
Right.
now we're going to do like a month of this, okay? So, and we're going to try and make it a little better
Please do it
every time.
again.
Yeah,
Keep
exactly.
doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
So specifically, you know, like I guess, you know, maybe, I guess there's a point, I don't know what it would be, like 7,000 or some point of proficiency in tricks where I feel that like it's a lot about crafting a good run, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like safety percentages and little stuff at the end that, you know, can always give extra points, and really working on the connection between the tricks rather than the tricks themselves, which should be robotic and automatic.
Right.
Like how much time, and I'm talking about the verbal side of coaching, you in the boat, like where do you tend to focus your attention? Is it like the connection between the tricks, the execution of the trick, you know?
Well, I mean, tricks is all about speed. So like if you can do all the tricks in the book, but if you can't go fast, you're never going to trick any points. So it's
Right.
like I tend to structure, I mean, toes is easy because, and actually hands is really easy too, because it's a gift and a curse. Like we're handcuffed in our sport because of the way the rules are. You have to do a trick in its reverse together and all those rules. So
Yeah.
everybody's trick runs kind of grow the same or look the same to some degree. You know, the hands, some people do flips first, some people do flips at the end, whatever. But, you know, so I structure runs to where it's easy to take things out or put things in as the skier improves. Now, I will say, I don't do the, you know, 2 different trick runs, and if you're nervous at the Worlds, we're going to do this one, and if you're not nervous at the I don't do that. Like, you either own your run or we're not doing it, because there's too much at stake. I don't even care if it's less points, because there's enough skiers out there that go for their big run that are going to fall, that you won't have any trouble beating with a run that I will bet money on that you're going to make. And we, as a coach, I've got more dang trick medals. And you can ask Jarrett too. Jarrett said that about Dorian. He was like, man, like I didn't expect us to win. Like this happened to him. It happened to Jarrett. It's like, it's not that you do a conservative run. It's that you do a run that is like 99% sure. And if there's something in there that, you know, like again, before a tournament, I don't brush things under the carpet. I push on the sore and try and get it to bleed. Because if it won't bleed when I push on it, I know that it's going to be good at the tournament. You know, in slalom, everything. You know, everything. I always push on the part where they're nervous. I know what, you know, and it's the same with trick. Like structuring the run is important because you're building a rhythm. And as you build a rhythm to go faster, you don't want to all of a sudden change the order of tricks or whatever unless it's like a major change that needs to be done to facilitate an extra mob, or, you know, you're swapping things out. You know, like Neely, for instance, just started to do all her flips at the start of her trick run, right? Or sorry, at the end? No, she switched. Anyway, but it's because she fundamentally learned some more body overs that were going, she does them at the start. Does them instead of doing like the same as Erica, right?
Yeah.
And her and Anna for years did that run where they do like, you know, wake 5 back and body. And Natty did the same. Natalia did the same run. But unless it's a change like that, I'm going to try and build a run that we're working on speed for 10 years. You know, like they don't need the speed at first because they don't have enough tricks. But it's like, constantly trying to go faster because, like I coach a little girl who's on the Canadian team, and I've been harping at her for 2 years to go faster. Oh, it's not safe. It's not safe. Now she can do a whole bunch of tricks and she can't get them in time. So she's like, okay, I need you to teach me how to go faster. And I'm like, I tried to 2 years ago. You wouldn't listen.
Right.
But again, shock, anger, resistance, acceptance, right? She's got this 480 point toe step at the end of her run that's always out of time. So now it's like, okay, I'm ready.
What's the use of that? Yeah.
I'm ready to learn. I could see it coming 2 years ago. But it's like, so, I mean, it's, for me, I'm always working on speed. Like, speed's everything with tricks. So, structure.
And if Pato taught us anything, right? Like, with the 11 hand tricks in a run, I mean,
he goes faster.
That's exactly that.
He goes faster, 100%. Yep.
Yep. Now, we did slalom, we did tricks, jump, right? Well, first of all, simple question. Do you enjoy coaching jump? And if so, what do you enjoy about coaching jump?
I enjoy coaching jump with people who are proficient at it. Beginning jumping and like kids that want to go kamikaze at the ramp, like I nip that right away. Like I'm like beyond a safety freak at my ski school. Like I am like, it took me a long time to get out of my boat, and it took Cole Grant coming to get out of my boat because, like, I don't just let anybody go do stuff. I mean, everybody knows water skiing is insanely dangerous, So now, do I like coaching? I love it. It's awesome, and like helping people again understand, the mechanics of what the boat's doing and how we're going to maximize that, and how to stand on the skis to get the most amount of lift off the top of the ramp. It's like, and we've been going down a new path with Joel and Taryn and Paige this year that I kind of learned in a different spot about body mechanics and how to balance, how to jump better, like some things that I hadn't actually understood about the human body, and it's making a huge difference for them. So it's like something that we've kind of understood a little bit, and we're all kind of working together to understand exactly how we want it to work. But it's like the most excited I've been about jumping in a long time. Good. It's really cool. So
good. Yeah. So the mechanics, because see, like when you said you love working with proficient jumpers, I always go back to at least my own experience, primarily as a sports psychologist, not necessarily as a coach yet, that it seems to be the most psychologically heavy of the three. Right? So the thing about fear and, overcoming, a crash, or like jump is three movements really, if you at the end of the day, but there's a lot that the mind can do there.
Absolutely.
So I personally enjoyed that aspect, and I don't know if you do enjoy it, but I know that eventually if you're coaching great jumpers, you're going to have to go through that.
Yeah.
So
100%.
What are some of the things that on the psychology of jumping that interest you and that maybe you work on?
Again, it's like building strong basics. So like when I said proficient, I don't care if it's a single. Like if you can do a really good single, let's work with that. I'm not talking about somebody that, you don't have to jump a certain distance to come jump with me, but it's like, you have to want to understand how to do it properly, that when you add a whole bunch of speed to it, that nothing bad's going to happen. There's always a chance something bad's going to happen, but it's like, let's stack the deck in our favor, which is one, the best thing you can do psychologically is when somebody's coming off the ramp with, not getting peeled into the ramp, the rope's tight, they're sticking the landings, like all of those things that like, it builds confidence that when you ask them later, like, hey, we need to cut a little bit later, you got to carry a little bit more speed into the turn where you're uncomfortable, they have the foundation to go back to, that they're not going to like, melt, or nothing weird's going to happen when you add 10 miles an hour to it, right?
Yeah.
And so the fear part of it is not, it is physical fear. Like, obviously they're afraid to get hurt, but it's like they just feel more in control at 41. I mean, you can get hurt at 41 off or 39 off. Like, you can hurt yourself a lot, you know? But it's like, I guess fear, whether it's nerves or whether it's fear of crashing or, you know, fear of losing or fear of failure, it's like you have to be okay with both outcomes. If you're not okay that like I'm going to go to the Worlds and I could win or I could lose, then you shouldn't go, because it's like you'll never ski to your full potential in anything. You'll never jump to your full potential if you don't have that talk with yourself where it's like, yeah, I'm willing to gamble losing because the feeling of winning is worth it. Like that's the gamble. And like, you know, take Paige, for instance. It's like her week event. She's obviously not as aggressive jumper, but she jumps pretty far. But it's like her desire to be a good overall skier outweighs the fear, that she doesn't really let the fear bother her, because she knows that like, I've either got to do this or else I'm not even going to be in the ballpark of like competing against Janina and Sasha and Hannah and all these other girls. So it's like she's accepted that the feeling she got from standing on the podium at the Worlds was like way better than, you know, being scared and going 35 meters. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's not worth it. Like, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. Now, you know, even this summer, somebody like Joel, who's probably got less fear than most people, crashed, hurt himself, set himself back. And I don't think it was so much that it was the pain. The fear that he got was the fear that he wouldn't be able to compete at the Worlds. Like, he's like thinking he never said this to me, but I know that kid. I basically raised him. And like, I know that he was like, man, I don't want to do that again because there's a chance that I won't be able to compete at the Worlds, you know? So he really took time to heal, which is not Joel. Joel, you're normally like, I'm fine. But like, we made him take time to heal. And we really like, you know, like it took a little while to get him back doing what he's good at. Yeah. And it was like, we didn't talk about it because it's like, with somebody like him, I don't need to talk about it. It's just like, I just need to take control of the situation and dictate to him how this is going to play out, his comeback, and then he doesn't have to worry about it. So, and you know, I've spent years on the dock in the finals of Worlds or finals of the Masters with people, and I can read people's emotions. I can read what they're thinking, and I do everything physically possible leading up to the event to push on the scab and push on the fears to get rid of them. Like, it's the only way to train. It's the only way to train. Like, something stupid like, oh, it's a week before the Worlds. Okay, the next 3 days, we're just going to kind of do like tournament style. Like, if you miss your gates or fall, you can go back out if you want. But, dude, you say that to somebody and like, instantly it's a different set. Instantly.
Yeah, of course.
Instantly. You know? And like, they kind of look at you like, oh, really? Are you serious? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. And they're all good with it, you know? But it's like, it's that heightened sense of accountability that like, I want to push on the places. Like, if I see somebody miss their gates in practice a couple of times, I'll push on it. Like, okay, dude, don't miss your gate. Like, next time you miss your gate, let's go in. Because if you're not going to go through the gates, like, you know, it's simple. It's over. Like, it's simple things, you know, like, because I can't do my job if you don't do your job, which is the accountability. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you have to do your part. Like, I'm only the guy steering the ship. It's not my ship. It's your ship, you know? So it's like, when it comes to tournaments and fear. And so with Joel and his jumping, I just like, okay, this is how we're going to start back. And we're going to take a week to get to here or two. Okay, perfect. You know? And that was like a relief for him. Because it's not like I'm saying, dude, you got to go 2:30 again. You know, it's like,
right.
No, we're
going
to get
over
the ramp. Exactly. Exactly.
So, strange question, but would you say you are a challenging coach? Like, is that what is that what I understand right when you say you're pushing on the sore when it's needed? Like, do you challenge your skiers?
I mean, so like,
I know it's a blunt question, but it's intentionally a blunt question.
Yeah, so I'll answer that in two ways. I have Robert, Paige, Taryn, Joel, Whitney at the lake every day. Okay, those people, I don't have to really like push like that. Like I will set. I've already done it all their lives. Like I've done it at times. I don't need to do that. They have that heightened sense of accountability. All of them. All of them. Like nobody goes out there and wastes my time. Nobody goes out there and wastes their time. And nobody goes out there and doesn't try to get better. So like, but I've only coached Robert a little bit the last couple of years, 3 years, maybe 4 years. I can't remember. But Mario did such a good job with him, you know? And it's like, I don't need to grind him, you know? Yeah. Now, so on the other side of things, because they've all been there, they've all done it, you know. Most of them are world champions, so it's like they've met the dragon and slayed it, you know. They got the gold medal, you know. So, now, as a hard coach, I would say basically I do this. Like, what do you want to? Like, if a kid comes to ski with me, I ask the parents first, and then I ask them, what do you want? Like, what is it that you're looking for? Oh, well, we want our kid to go to the Junior Worlds. Okay. We want our kid to make the team or qualify on the list to go to the Junior Worlds, which is not even hard anymore because they opened it wide open. But back when it was actually like, you know, 8 women and 10 guys that on the list, you know, what I'm hard about is if you say this is what you want, then this is what you have to do to get there. There's not another path to take than this. So I don't mind if you don't want to get there. We can have fun and we can you can do things on your terms. But if you say this is my goal, I'm going to hold you accountable to it. And I'm going to put checkpoints along the way to make sure that you're living up to your side of it. Yeah. And that's really the big thing because you know, I used to be a lot more of a motivator for the kid who's, you know, the parents just drop them off and they expect you to do something magical with them. But it's like now I make sure that both of us understand that like I'm going to put in to you, but you have to stick to the plan that I lay out because you're the one that's going to be sad at the end when you don't get to go to the Junior Worlds, you know? And those kids are the ones that I grind really hard before a tournament because usually you only got 2 or 3 tournaments to qualify for it. And it's like, I need them to perform. So I'll do it like right from the beginning. A kid misses his gates. Oh no, we're not going to shorten. You didn't make your gates. Like not in a mean way, but in a way like it's not acceptable. Like don't do that. You know, like go through your gates. It's pretty simple. You know, I know you missed your gates at 35 because you wanted a better one ball, but don't do it. You know, like right. Just without saying that, that's, you know, is more the way because like, you know, I take pride in what I do and I want to be successful. Like I want more kids I coach at the Junior Worlds. I want more world champions, not for my ego because it's like, it's a project. Like it's not,
it's a measure of success, right? Like it's a measure of success for your quality of coaching.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, I had a casual conversation with Brienne Dodd the other day because a funny video on Instagram came up of a guy was gassing up his car and looked over to talk to somebody and sprayed the person in the back of the truck with gas in the face. And Brienne actually did that to me. So I said, a lot of years ago. So I sent her the video. I said, you remember when you sprayed me like this? And we were chatting, but you know, like seeing her on the podium at the Worlds in Calgary was like so huge for me, like as a personal, like not because it's, trust me, if people who know me well, it's not my ego. It's just like,
no, I understand.
Getting this young lady to realize like one of her dreams as a child is like massive. And it's like Joel at the Worlds this year. Like I was so emotional because I've been with that kid since he's 10 years old, you know? And it's like, it's not easy to do what these guys do. And like, it's like, there's a lot of stuff you got to juggle and there's a lot of little bits that got to come together at the right time. And you're skiing against a kid like Dorian, who's like stuff we've never seen before, you know, like better than his dad was. And his dad was like unbelievable. And it's like, so it's like, you know, like the level is, look at the men's slalom final at the Worlds. It's like impossible to win anymore, you know? So it's like, it's like the fact that you bottle magic every once in a while. And it is bottled magic is what it is. It's not, they're bottled lightning, whatever they call it. It's not me. It's like, it's them, but it's like the fact that you do it. So like, I'm kind of too old and kind of too like, not into just like pulling kids around the lake who don't really want to do what they say they want to do. It's like, if you want to do it, let's do it. And that's just like an accountability piece that my parents taught me, you know. It's like, we're sending you down there, like, don't waste his time and make sure you get better. It's like that simple, you know. And if he tells you to do something, do something. Like, I never once ever told Mike that I was too tired to ski again. Like, I don't care how tired I was or hungover or anything else. It was like, if he told me I needed to do another toe set, I was doing another toe set. But, you know, now we have the tired generation where everybody's tired, you know.
Right.
So it's like, it's hard to get everybody to, you know, to stick to what they say they want to do, you know. So, but the glory, it's so much harder, but it's so sweet for them. Like that, you know, like watching Conley this year win the Pan Ams and jump was like, dude, like I literally almost broke, like I was really emotional. Like, he's such a like head down, work his butt off. Nothing comes like for free to that kid. And like to watch him win something, you know, was like, man, like his dad brought him to me when he was like 8 years old, you know? So it's like, you know, these kids are like my kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think it's an ego thing. I really think if you really care about what you do as a coach, your skiers performing well is a testament that you're doing good work, right? It just happens that it's water ski coaching, you know, like for a salesman, it's how much they sell, you know, like for us, it's how much our athletes perform. I don't think it's not about the ego. It's about a good way of checking performance.
And like with Joel, like Joel flipped the switch. It wasn't me that flipped the switch. It was Joel that flipped the switch. Like, you know, and it's the same with Paige. Like, Paige got really good when she flipped the switch, not when I did. Like, I'm just the guy, you know, when Joel told me, hey, I want to break the world record, I was like, okay, this is what you need. Here's the toe pass you need. Let's go learn it. You know, like, I didn't say, hey, why don't you learn this toe pass so you can break the world record? Because he's a really good skier. But it's like, he asked me, I want to break the world record. What do I need? Well, here it is. This is what you need, you know? So it's like, this is like, and, you know, it's whenever that switch flips and like, you know, I can help and guide, but it's like, they got to have that inner, like, I'm going to get this done. Like, I'm going to be the one that puts the lightning in the bottle, you know, like that's really it. And, you know, Joel's Worlds, Paige's overall at the Worlds, like my wife's seasons, that's their lightning in a bottle. It's not my lightning in a bottle. It's theirs, you know? So it's like, it's fun for me because like I tell them, and I've told them for years, I won't take credit when you ski well, and I won't take the blame when you ski bad, because I know how good you are. I watch you every day. When you go to a tournament and ski well, that's for you. That's for you to prove to yourself how good you are. I already know how good you are. I watch you every day. So it's like you go there and you prove to yourself, because that's what we all need, is that self-validation of that gold medal or whatever it is. And it's like, you know, and that's really like for them, it's the tournaments are for them. It's not, you know, it's nothing to do with me. I'm just there watching by the end, like, you know. So
look, I think I want to conclude with something a little off, still coaching, but off from what we just talked about, which is very, very high level, right? So a lot of my listeners are just, you know, they ski. They don't go to ski school. They just love to ski, and they love helping their friends ski. So if you could give like 2 or 3 little nuggets of like how you can help your body in their skiing, and I know it's tough because we're not talking about a specific like skier, but like some of the things to look for, ways of saying things, like when it's appropriate to say, when this type of stuff that can help us help our friends.
Sure. So you're talking about slalom, I'm assuming?
The majority obviously is slalom. Yeah. So let's go with that.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I always look at the posture behind the boat. So like, even with, if some of your listeners aren't even skiing, go back on your phone and watch a video, and like, the posture is king, because the posture creates leverage and it gets you to where you can work on the ski without crossing the lines of the parameters that the ski wants. Like, yeah, there's all kinds of ways to skin a cat. I'm not going to tell you that, there's not some amazing slalom skiers that don't run 39 off, that have their butt close to the water and their knees and ankles really bent and their shoulders facing the boat. There's lots of them. There's lots of good skiers like that. But there's also a lot of maneuvering that has to happen from the time they release the cutting edge onto the turning edge in order to make all those parts fit together. Yeah. And so like, with slalom, 100% posture is king. The second thing is your lean angle. So in other words, like how much you lean behind the boat is like your intensity. So you always need to lean enough for whatever pass it is you're trying to run. So I use like a scale system. So like from 1 to 10. So like pick a pass that you can run really easy. Lock out your posture so that your back's perfectly straight. Because remember, the rope's attached to our shoulders. It's not attached anywhere else. So the shoulders and the rib cage and the thoracic spine are all responsible for resisting the breakdown, which we all end up with our arms out in front of us and our butt hanging out, right? So all of that is responsible for that. So by posture, like how you would like really close out a deadlift, if you were going to the top of a deadlift, you're going to counterbalance with your chest and shoulders, and your rib cage is going to come up a little bit. That's posture. Now, lean is if you're watching a skier go from like ball 1 to ball 2 from the side of the lake, like how much the distance is from where the rope's attached to their shoulders to their feet, how much angle that is. So pick a pass that you can run easily, make your posture perfectly straight, and pick a number. If you can run it really easy and really early, pick a number that you think it is of lean between 1 and 10. So let's say it's a 4, okay? Yeah. Run the pass again at a 5 and see what it does to the space you have before the ball. It doesn't mean you're going to pull harder. It means lean harder, because when you lean, it makes the ski edge more. When the ski edge more, you hold your angle across the lake better. Those two things alone, then when you go to the next pass, up your number from a 4 to a 5. So if you're at 28 off, you're leaning at a 4, ski it at a 5. Then when you go to 32, ski 32 at a 6. And then 35 at a 7. So those things alone are really the building block for how I coach, because as soon as there's like, if you think about slalom from like 30,000 feet, we take the boat and the ski out of it. And now we just think about, okay, what do I really need to do to go around as many buoys as I can? One, you have to create space. You have to know how to create space in the course. And 2, you have to know how to keep the rope tight. Because if I can get you early, not wide, but early, and a tight line, tell me a pass you're not going to run, right? I mean, everything slows down when you have space. So understanding, the posture and the lean angle is the building block for space. When you have space, a lot of the compensation, fudges, all the weird stuff that happens in the turn goes away, because now you have time. So like when people bring me their big, messy rope all knotted up, and they tell me, I do this in the turn, I dip my head, I turn my shoulders, I do all this, I'm like, okay, let's get you so early that it's like bulletproof to make a turn. Right. So that's, really where I would start. And like, I had two young brother and sister come. I coached them for a week for the first time. And I told their dad, the only thing you need to tell them all summer, I'm saying, I don't care what pass it is all summer, posture, lean angle, and turn as close to the ball as you can. And
Right.
they will self-organize. And once you build them that bulletproof like position behind the boat, they'll never hit a plateau because it won't feel scary to increase the speed and the energy when you go.
And
So-
just to make it clear, it's in that order, right? So posture first,
Yep.
then lean angle, then
Yep.
create space.
Yeah, well, the posture and the lean angle will create space.
Yeah.
And then you should always 100% try to turn as close to the ball as you possibly can, because mathematically it's in your favor to turn early, and it has nothing to do with the north-south being down course or up course. It's all to do with where the boat is in position of the course. So
Yeah.
when the rope gets short, when you're used to turning 3, 4, 5 feet past the ball, you're going to mathematically box yourself in a corner where it just doesn't work anymore unless your height, makes up for the difference. And there's
Yep.
one guy that skis that I don't know if anybody else notices, but he turns ridiculously close to every ball, and it helps with the rhythm that the boat dictates because he's never in panic mode. When you turn early, why would you ever ski a rhythm that's not conducive to what the algorithm of the zero off wants? It's when you're
Right.
late and you're past the ball, that visual trigger of the ball says go. And what do? You pull as hard as you can because you got to get early. So it's for beginners, it's super important to me that they can turn where they actually shin the ball all the time.
Yeah.
I won't let them go faster or shorter until they can proficiently hold their posture, have the appropriate amount of lean angle, and shin the ball. And then from there, it's just rinse and repeat and change the intensity. Rinse and repeat, change the intensity.
Yeah. The
I make
rest
it
is
sound-
cosmetic. essentially.
Exactly. I make it sound easy, but literally when you start with those bases, it's not hard. You're not going to find a pass where you get stuck at for years unless it's 39, 41, something like that, right? Even 38 is not that hard when you stick to those kind of parameters. If you're trying to run 38 and you can't clip the ball at 32 off, you're not understanding the value of learning how to create space. It's the value and the math that it does in the end is well worth staying at a longer line until you master it. Because trying to run 41 or 39 down course, you got to be Chris Parrish. You got to have the height. If you don't have the height, it's just mathematically it boxes you out at a certain point.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yes, it's very good advice, and I think sometimes one of the challenges of skiers who are trying to help their friends is structuring the help, and I think the three advices you gave at least can help them, sort of put the glasses on and look for those things, right?
Right.
Which oftentimes
100%.
is even just asking the right question. Do you feel comfortable on your ski? Do you feel there are any angle? Do you feel like your stance, your posture is appropriate, right?
Yeah, and if any of your listeners, need a visual reference, my Instagram account is loaded with slalom videos, slow motion through the wakes, and you can see the body alignment and how much drive that, take Whitney, take Joel, Paige, Robert, they have behind the boat. And that drive and that power and being able to use that power when you want to use it. It's as soon as the posture's broken, you're kind of a victim of whatever you pull whenever you can pull. When you're straight and your posture's strong and you understand, then you can delay that power to use it when the boat's not gonna get you going too fast, too quick, which is, so I mean, there's lots of visual references, on my Instagram or Joel's or Paige's or any of them, you can go check them out.
Sweet. Matt, I mean, I don't know that it could have gone any better. Honestly,
I had a great time, man.
Me too. I really enjoyed it. As you know, I know you're a good listener of the podcast. I always give room for some thanks. So this is your time.
Yeah, thank you. I have to, thank my parents who believed in me in the beginning and still do believe in me and celebrate my wins and cry my losses and everything still. Like, my parents are two real gems and I love them dearly. And my wife and kids are just wonderful. I mean, without them, like, they keep me grounded and they keep me having fun. And then, of course, my sponsors, Nautique and Radar. I mean, those guys give me the opportunity to, like, peel the onion where most people don't have that ability to do that, you know, working on boats and working on skis, and I'm really grateful to both of those companies. So,
Sweet.
you know, that's my thanks. I appreciate it. And thanks to you, of course, for having me on here. It was super fun.
Well, thank you, Matt. I really enjoyed it, and I know the listeners will too. Thanks again.
Okay, bud.